Perhaps you feel as I do, but it has been found that Sufi stories have very powerful chemistry. So in putting two simple Sufi stories together and seeing what they evoke in us in our attempts to answer this question, where are we? You know, it's said in some circles that when we learn the most powerful name, we have the power to change destiny. And there was a certain dervish who had been with a Sufi master for many, many years. And he approached his Sufi master, asking him, "Master, I've been with you and undertaken all of these practices and disciplines for some decades now. When will you confer on me the most great name?" And his master said, "My son, to learn the most great name, we must pass a test. And as it was with my master and myself, you too must pass this test." "What must I do?" said the dervish. And the master said, "Go to the city gates and sit out there for a day, and come to me in the evening and tell me of what it is that occurs there." So the next day, in the evening, the dervish came back to his Sufi master, and the master asked him, "Tell me, what was the most significant occurrence of your day?" And the dervish related that while he was sitting at the gates of the city, that an old wood chopper came to the gates and was accosted by the soldiers, who demanded that he pay a tax before entering the gate to sell his wood. But that as the old man had no money to pay, he bargained with the soldiers to ask if they would allow him to enter and sell his wood so that he could pay his tax on his return. But the soldiers refused, and they confiscated his wood and beat him soundly and sent him on his way. The master said to the dervish, "What was your thought about this occurrence?" And the dervish said, "I thought that if only I knew the most powerful name, that the fate of that old woodchopper would have been different." The master said, "Foolish seeker after power. My master was none other than the old woodchopper you saw at the gates of the city." The second story is about a merchant who was traveling from place to place, but his horse stumbled in a hole on the road, and he fell off his horse, injuring his leg. So, being close to a rather magnificent property, he stumbled there and knocked on the door. And the door was opened by a handsome man, beautifully attired in satin garments, shoes with toes that curled up at the end, and a bejeweled turban on his head. And the merchant explained that his horse had stumbled and that he'd injured his leg. Would it be possible to receive assistance and hospitality? And the handsome man invited the merchant in, called servants to come over, and those from outside to take his horse and take care of it. And he was given every care. His leg was carefully tended and bandaged, and he was given food and a place to sleep most comfortably for the night. In the next morning, the handsome man, still richly attired, came and treated him just like a brother, helped him to dress in clean garments, and fed him with fresh fruit, and then bought him a care package to take on his way, because now his leg was sufficiently healed for him to continue on his journey. But as the merchant was leaving the house, he noticed an old man standing in the doorway of the servants' quarters to the scullery, the kitchen, ragged and patched clothes, sandals that were almost falling off his feet. And the passing thought of the merchant was of great pity, even though he noticed that the old man's long white beard was serenely smoking a pipe. The merchant went on his way. But some while later it happened that he had to pass that way again, and he thought he'd call and again give his thanks to the master of that house who had been so kind to him. But he stopped in the village on the way to have a cup of tea to quench his thirst, and as he was talking to the shopkeeper and told him the story of how he was going to revisit this house, the shopkeeper told him, alas, our benefactor, this great master of this house, who gave hospitality and generosity to all, has passed away. Oh, the merchant said, well then, I must go to the house and give my condolences. So when he went to the rich edifice and knocked on the door, ready with his words of condolence, to his very great surprise, the handsomely bedecked man who he thought was the master of the house opened the door. And he said, I'm so glad to see you alive. I was told in the village that the master of the house had died. Oh, said the richly bedecked man, do you remember seeing an old man with a long white beard when you were visiting? Yes, said the merchant. Said the richly bedecked man, that was my master. He is sadly, sadly missed for his generosity, his hospitality, his kindness, his compassion. When we mix the chemistry of these two stories in our being, what do they evoke for us relative to the question, where are we? How do we know we've arrived at a place beyond the movement of life? what arises in us from these stories as an awareness about where we are. How does it fit with the realization that there is no such thing as death?
Just get on with life. Just, you do what you have to do.
Absolutely,
You
and
just,
simply yes.
you just do what you have to do.
Yes.
And sometimes it's challenging.
Yes.
But also, there's no, it's as though you're not carrying anything with you
That's right.
anymore. There's no
No.
baggage you're lugging along
No.
behind about what should have been or could have been or anything like that.
And there's certainly no if only.
Yes.
If only I'd done this, or if only I'd learned that, or if only I'd got my PhD, if only I'd... Is there? No if only. At all. But how does this relate to the second story? Where are we at with this? What does it connote for us?
With contentment comes.
Yes.
So you don't need anything.
That's right. That's right.
Contentment.
Yes. And you notice that you say contentment and not peace, harmony. It's different, isn't it?
Yeah, because those things change.
Constantly.
You know, who knows when I might be angry the next minute or something.
That's right. That's right.
It's just the movement. You know, that's all just the movement. Because somehow this stillness remains inside,
Mm-hmm.
even this is a contradiction, but even in the movement.
That's right. That's exactly so.